So hey,
I'm
welcome. This is a community call AMA. It is May 25th, 2023, and we are joined today by the Resonate / Revest team. So thank you guys for joining. We have Maddie. Gosh, I'm so sorry, Maddie. I misspelled your username, and now you're Maddie Ive instead of Maddie Ice.
I
Which
saw
is
that. I was trying to fix that. No worries. Not a big
nearly
deal.
as clever. Yeah, so sorry, quick typing. As well as Rob. And do we have one more person joining, or are they going to come in later? Potentially.
Kurt, I think, got pulled into a call.
Yeah,
So
he pushed me a little bit.
Okay, no issue there. Thank you two for joining. We've talked about Revest in the past because we had like an impromptu AMA one time during one of these community calls where I just picked your brain about the protocol. And we've talked a number of times. And so I am vaguely familiar with what you guys do. I know it's similar to things like Flashstake and Pendle and maybe even iPour, where you can get like a fixed rate yield on particular assets, or you can also do some sort of like order book interest rate swapping. But I would much rather hear about it from the horse's mouth. So what is Resonate in your own words?
So in my own words, Resonate is a yield swapping solution that allows you to get an instantaneous fixed rate on pretty much any asset out there that uses an order book to allow for near infinite vertical scaling and financial NFTs to allow for instruments that last for any duration and can get exit liquidity on them.
So that's a bit of a mouthful.
It is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
The long story short is lockup tokens get money.
I like that. Okay, so when you say lockup tokens get money, you mean that you can either lock up your yield-bearing token and rent it to someone else, and they get the yield, you get upfront payment, or you can rent someone else's token, or yield rather. You're not exposed to the asset; you're only exposed to the yield, and you pay like a renter fee.
Exactly. You pay the renter fee up front in whatever asset they want. So if I wanted my yield on GLP, but I was worried about GLP's price, maybe I get paid in USDC. And then I don't have to hedge both the GLP principal and the yield. I only have to hedge the principal.
That's right. Exactly. So we're going to actually dive into a bunch of examples on the actual DApp here in a bit. But before we do that, why don't you tell me sort of like where you are right now as a protocol? I know you guys have come a long way. You had a lot on the roadmap. It's been a while since we talked to you. I want to know what's going on now today in the world of Resonate.
So it is actually a transformational period, I would say. We have discovered a new vertical that we think offers even stronger PMF that we're about to go play in. Of course, it won't take away from our old existing product lines, but I'll tell you about what we've been doing, and then I'll tell you about where we see the future. So far, we've been doing a lot of work with institutional funds. So since we offer this scaling that a lot of others can't access, because they use AMMs and we don't, we're able to help out guys who want to do, $3, $4, $5 million trades at fixed rates. Since they come to our system and somebody who wants to underwrite their fixed return just goes ahead and pays them, the rate they'd get for locking up for a month, and then they're done. We've been doing a lot of work with this fund called Digital Opportunities Group. We've been doing a little bit of work with Velodrome. We've done some work with Maya DAO. And we've got a few of those deals that are very much still in the pipeline and coming along. Primarily, people have been very interested in GLP, and a lot of people have been interested in Ethereum staking. Particularly, we've had chats with guys as far out as prime brokers who want to be able to offer these fixed rates to retail or to banks who don't need to know too much about how crypto works under the hood, but just want to get a guaranteed return. Kind of like how with Celsius, you just gave them your money and you didn't know what they were doing, but without the bullshit of not knowing what they're doing. More along the lines of, you give me your ETH, I'll give you 5%. And that's a guaranteed safe process when done through Resonate.
Right, because they get it up front, and then they just have to wait for the, I don't know if you call that a vesting time or like a renter's time. What do you call that time between when it's is it just a locking time?
Just lockup period.
Okay, so lockup period. Good.
We don't really have a formal term for it.
You guys need a formal term, man. This don't you guys remember
Christ.
like, don't you remember Beanstalk where you had like 1,000 different terms for every new?
Oh God, man, don't get started.
Yeah, you need like it's all about the lingo, man. Okay, cool. So you have a lot.
I love the Beanstalk guys, but I hate diamonds so much.
Yeah. We definitely have a bunch of mixed opinions on that, and I was personally really hurt by that protocol and that exploit. Okay, but
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We bounce back. Now, you say you have a lockup period, right? So you're talking with larger institutions. They're saying we want some sort of fixed yield. The counterparties are able to offer that up front and presumably get a much better yield utilizing some sort of ETH product on chain. Is that roughly accurate?
Yeah, I would say that's roughly accurate. Either ETH or GLP. Those guys have been very interested in GLP.
Okay. Well, we should talk after this because I work on an ETH product that I think is arguably one of the best ones on Ethereum mainnet, but I'm not going to hog up all the airtime with that.
You and I should definitely talk. The other day I came up with a structured product that would allow you to guarantee a 5% return or more on Ethereum using what we've discussed with Resonate V2.
We do 12%. But I digress.
I was impressive. I could source you some liquidity, sir.
Yeah, would love to do that. Okay, so let's dive into Resonate. I'm gonna share my screen so everyone can sort of see, and you can sort of like just walk us through it.
Oh yeah.
All right. So this is what I'm on Arbitrum because I know you guys have been really active there lately. I know you're also sort of heavily on ETH mainnet, but Arbitrum has been super hot for the past, I don't know, like it feels like forever in DeFi. I don't actually know how many months it's been. It feels like it's been 4 months. It's just like, a sentiment of Arbitrum just being on fire and being a place where it's been generating a lot of interest. So I land here. Where would you navigate if you were a new user?
So if you were a new user and you didn't know what you were doing, we would want to help you understand why fixed rates are a good thing. Since basically we've been doing a lot of experiments lately. And one of the things that we realized is it would be nice to have some more retail users. There's clearly demand. Flash Stake did pretty well at, getting people to take fixed rates up front. And when we launched this in October, that demand just was not there. So we pivoted to targeting institutions. But we realized, okay, there is interest in this again. So we built the Regen portal because most of the time when people get these upfront positions, they don't know why they're doing it. Why would I ever take a lower return on an interest rate? Why would I ever do that? So we were thinking, okay, well, why would you want that? Well, you'd want that because you can do other things with that money. And that gave us the idea for Regen. And we'll start with Regen, and then we'll dive into a bit deeper of what, Resonate's core is. And then we'll surface back up, and I'll tell you about where we're headed in the future.
Okay, sounds great. Now, I've heard a lot about like you get some sort of upfront payment. That payment then takes like a leveraged bet on some assets. So you're getting a leveraged return yield for no risk on your principal. Is that basically what this product is?
It is.
All right. Very cool. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're locking up GLP for a week. And we're actually almost out of this. We had somebody come in with like $200,000 the other day and eat up half the pool. But
it seems like a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. We've been paying 57.4% interest on GLP as part of the introductory bonus for Regen. And what that means is you can lock up, say, 100 GLP right now, and you'd get $1.10 worth of interest in USDC today. Now, the second step of that, so if you type in 100 bucks, it'll tell you, okay, you don't have any GLP. But it would tell you, yes, you don't have any GLP in that wallet, looks like. It would tell you that you need to use MUX, because if you use MUX, then you'll be able to open that position with such a low value. To open on GMX, you need about $10 of USDC. So what you do then is you're going to choose your leverage. I recommend a high leverage choice, and you can long or short ETH. And why that's useful, why that's interesting, is you're not longing shorting ETH with that $10,000 you're currently locking up. You're longing shorting ETH with that $100 that you'd be receiving as the upfront payment. And what that means is that if you use ultra high leverage, like 100%, right? Well, first off, go ahead and crank that up to 100x with the little slider there at leverage. Yeah, just drag that guy all the way up. So you've now opened a long where you'd execute this that is $10,000 in size on ETH. You're holding GLP, which is a stable asset, but you've got $10,000 of exposure to the price of Ethereum. That already is a very powerful concept, as I'm sure you can gather. Hold GLP, exposure to ETH. We've thought about building these things for USDC in the future. We haven't found a good USDC farm quite yet. But in that case, you'd be able to hold USDC, have ETH exposure. And you can almost think this is a binary option. You're using such high leverage at this point that it breaks one way or the other.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about this is you get liquidated, right? Let's just say that happens, because it probably will at 100x. Well, what have you lost?
You've lost your yield.
You've lost your yield. You haven't lost your principal. Your principal, you get it back at the end of the week.
Oh, okay. That's what you're saying. So in this case, right, it's kind of like gambling with collateral where you don't lose the collateral.
Yep. It's principal protected.
This is interesting. I mean, I totally understand the product, and this is something that someone could have done with the previous product on their own if they wanted to, right? They could have gotten the upfront yield. They could have taken that to some perpetual DEX, and they could have like leveraged that to their heart's content. But what you guys have done is you've built this tool or application where people can do it all in one place. So you're sort of saying, like, you guys have taken the perspective that this is such a compelling type of thing that you wanted to wrap it all in one. Now, when you're doing this, you're saying that people are opening these positions on MUX. So if it's like an upfront payment of $10, that position, that leverage position is being opened on MUX. Is that accurate?
It is, yes.
Got it. Okay, cool. Now, why did you guys go this route instead of like you still have the previous product where you can just go ahead and get the upfront payment of USDC. What was the major push for this?
The realization that most people didn't make that jump. Most of the time, if you show someone and say, "Hey, you can have $10 up front for locking 1,000 for a week," they're gonna say, "Okay," but if I just put the 1,000 on a yield farm, I could have $11 in a week.
Right.
And so it's kind of like if you show someone the skeleton of it, they're not going to know what to do with it. But improving the user experience of fixed rates, it helps them to understand, why should I care? Because that's almost always the first question we got when we were talking to people about Resonate is, okay, that's cool, but what am I going to do with this? Why should I care?
Right. So
and stuff like that
good.
Is why you care.
Yeah, I get this, and there are other things I think people could do with the upfront payment, right? So I think you were mentioning, there might be some like USDC farms. So instead of like putting it into a long leverage position on ETH, maybe that upfront payment goes into a yield farm on some sort of solidly fork on Arbitrum that's doing some ridiculous yield, like 20+%. So,
or maybe we drop it into Rodeo and then deposit it into Jones DAO. I wonder what that partnership would ever
right,
mean.
Exactly. Yeah, there are many things that I guess if you created these structured products, they might be compelling. So people who are long on GLP or long on whatever, I don't know if you guys call them SY assets, but interest-bearing asset, they could then bring it over here, and instead of getting an upfront payment, they get an upfront investment. So now you have an investment in this liquidity farm, or now you have this investment in this liquid staked asset, or now you have this investment in this, that, and the other thing, at no cost to you other than time, because you were already invested in the GLP, you were already invested in the underlying asset. So I see the vision here. I'm not like a trader, so like the leverage long or leverage short doesn't immediately appeal to me, but the thesis does, of like giving a use case immediately to the upfront payment.
Exactly. That's where our head is at, is help people understand why should I care.
Right, because
Another
there
idea,
is like a risk premium or a time premium to waiting for the yield to arrive.
there is, and that is something that is true of all these, of all similar protocols in this, vein, is you're waiting until your assets unlock.
Right, opportunity cost.
Yeah, and there are ways to get out of that. We are currently working with several people around the GLP ecosystem and mainnet ecosystem in creating FNFT lending, but that tech is a month or two out.
So are you guys working with Dolomite on that? I know Dolomite is really big into the FNFT lending, and they're like pretty friendly in the Arbitrum ecosystem. And I think I saw you guys were getting a little bit chummy in the Discord a while ago.
Yeah, we were. The Dolomite guys are cool. We may or may not have been having chats.
Yeah, I like the Dolomite guys. So do you plan to do your FNFT lending with them, or are you going to have your own sort of independent product?
We're building a cabal of people who will support FNFT lending, like Dolomite, for instance, and people who already do NFT lending, like guys who are currently only on mainnet, but who we are working to bring over to Arbitrum as well. Friends of ours in the NFT FI sector. And then there's the liquidity providers. Since most of these things are peer-to-peer, well, okay, there are pool-to-peer protocols like Spice, who we are also partnered with for some reason. And I think you can see where this is headed. If I go to Resonate and I say get 10% upfront of my GLP.
Yep.
If click the all pools, we can go take a look at the GLP while we're talking. If I go to Resonate and I scroll down to Beefy, that's the best one. Beefed up yields, it should be at the bottom, and it should show up if you click load more pools if it doesn't already.
Beefed up yields.
Yeah,
there you go.
There it is. Yep.
So before we go into that, I just want to so people can understand what they're seeing here. This 1.844K thousand, that's the amount of money available to pay to people who want to lend their GLP yield and lock up their GLP. So another way of thinking about this is the amount that renters are willing to pay to buy GLP yield at the moment.
Exactly. It's people see that and they think, oh, this has no liquidity. But if
it's actually a lot, right? It's
actually a lot. It'll support a few 100,000 if you hover over the order on the right. And we are completely rebuilt. Yeah, this is why I need to rebuild all of this.
There we go.
I'm sorry. this UI. Yeah, as you can see, it'll support $166,000 of GLP on the fixed rate side. So where this is all going, though, with this lending is you come to Resonate, you come to this, and you get, say, 1% upfront. All right. Now you get a financial NFT that represents your, say, 100 GLP. Go to Dolomite and get a loan on that FNFT for, say, 90 GLP. Since the FNFT is going to be worth 100 GLP in 7 days,
right?
They'll give you a loan that has a payback term of, say, 8 days, and you get an you get 90 GLP. So now you have 91 GLP because you had the original 1.1% from Resonate, and you come back to Resonate with that 91 GLP, and you get another 1.1% of that upfront, and another FNFT,
right?
And now you go back to Dolomite and you loop.
And then theoretically, there will be someone at some point in time, if this is available, will build a structured product that does all of this for you.
Oh, absolutely. This is like some urine tier yield farming at this point.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I love these types of strategies. They're very compelling and very interesting, and I'm excited for Dolomite to really bring these like financialized NFTs to life. I don't think it's really happened yet in DeFi, but it's getting super close. And
it is.
So okay, let's just go back and start from step one. So the idea here is that you would be a lender of your GLP, theoretically, lender. I think that's the correct term. Would you use a different term there, or do you like that?
You'd be the receiver of a fixed rate. Receiver is probably a better term.
Okay.
We call it issuer, but receiver is the correct term my friends in traditional finance have told me.
Okay, so you are the receiver here. But what that effectively means is you have locked up your GLP for some amount of time and you're receiving a fixed rate, right?
Yep.
And you have an NFT position that represents that process or that agreement.
It does. It represents the right to reclaim your GLP at the end of that period.
And then you can take that NFT, which represents the rights to reclaim, let's say, 100 GLP in the future in 7 days or whatever, however long the expiry is. And you can then go collateralize that potentially and then get a loan against it over on Dolomite.
Yes.
And then repeat that process ad infinitum to your heart's content.
Exactly.
Got it. So this is kind of cool. You have a position that you've effectively, you didn't forfeit the yield, but you got a fixed rate return on it instead of getting the yield. Then you can go out and potentially get more yield on this by, I don't know if rehypothecate is the correct word in this instance, but by reutilizing that position to borrow against it and then maybe get yield on that borrowed value, whatever that might be. So maybe it's looping the position, maybe it's going and farming, whatever it is, you can use the value of your GLP as collateral while it goes through this locked period.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's neat.
Thank you. We are working on a whole gang of these things. There are so many of these ideas that I have.
So the ideas are really cool. My concern here is that because I kind of work in DeFi education in one way or another, and I feel like most people in this community who are listening right now probably understand all of what was just said relatively quickly, if not before me. Now, how do you plan on getting these sort of ideas across to retail DeFi farmers who may not be as savvy? Though I will say, like at this point in the market, anyone who's still here is probably relatively savvy in DeFi.
I would agree with that, but I am entirely in agreement with you that the complexity of what we've built is one of our biggest things to overcome. And that actually leads really nicely into where we're trying to take this as we move forward.
Is that just going to be like more structured products?
Well, structured products are one leg. Fixed rates for institutions are another leg. But the third leg, and I would say probably the leading leg for, I don't know, the next 3 to 6 months that we're kind of almost pivoting toward at this moment, is liquid staking derivatives. GLP would probably be included under this, but liquid staking derivatives especially, because right now there is a war on. There is a huge war for liquidity on LSDs. And when you look at the ways that people are incentivizing liquidity right now, there's a problem because the minute one person incentivizes more, everyone else will switch, since capital's mercenary in this sector. Okay, what if you were able to get that mercenary capital lock up? Well, Frax has actually already done this on mainnet. Frax has a vault that via Convex that'll pay you a slightly higher, like 1% higher percentage on ETH, Frax ETH LPs on Curve. And that vault has 130 million TVL. All you have to do is lock up for a month or two and you get a higher return on your Frax ETH LPs. It's been wildly successful, but the positions aren't liquid. Frax is the only one that's doing it. It relies on Convex to function, which doesn't exist anywhere but mainnet, and it's extremely gas intensive. So we saw that the other day. It was a week or two ago. We were like, wait a second. We've been talking with an LSD provider, I won't say which one, about doing something like this, like paying an upfront fixed rate on an L2. What if we just had them pay what the variable rate is, or even slightly above it? What if we got the L2s themselves involved in paying extra because they also benefit from having locked liquidity? Resonate can already do this. The core tech is there, it's built, it's done. Slap a very simplified interface on top of it, and you've got a way for a liquid staking derivative provider to pay ever so slightly more than their variable rate on their LSD ETH pairs, and incentivize people to lock those up for a month or two. We're
So
doing a
this
dry
is
run.
like a different approach to what Kronos calls, or what is known as like sticky liquidity. Everyone wants sticky liquidity. There are many ways to incentivize it. Like the reliquary mechanism that the Bimasons developed is, you get a better yield over time for holding long term. And they're also using financialized NFTs, so you can sell these positions rather than exit them, which means liquidity theoretically would stay there if the markets were clever enough to understand that. What you guys are saying is a little bit different. You're saying you have them lock, they get now. I guess the part that I'm not understanding.
Right. Mason's system allows you to withdraw at any time. You lose extra yields, but in my experience, the promise of higher returns is never enough to stop someone who's terrified. When fear hits, people lose rationality. And even if you're providing them financially advantageous positions, they're still going to run, because running is much better and safer for them than staying. To give an example, I have a hedge fund friend, and he was hit with a redemption right after Avi Eisenberg attacked Curve. His liquidity provider wanted their money back, several million, like 5 or 10. And he had to sell an entire $5 million Y-curve position at like 25% slippage.
Ooh.
He got back maybe like 20% down of what they were supposed to, but they didn't care. They just wanted out. They threw rationality out the window and took a huge L because panic had set in. With Resonate, when you're using it for a liquidity locker in this way, it actually makes it impossible to exit the LP tokens. You can exit the financial NFT, but you cannot actually withdraw the position until the time period has passed.
So I think this is, I don't fully understand the position yet, but I'm getting closer there. I'm a slow learner, so give me some time. You're suggesting that there is an LP, like an ETH LSD pair. And instead of having these incentivized on some sort of farm, they would somehow offer what they assume would be the rate, the farm rate, the yield rate, on Resonate instead.
The LSD themselves is already paying a lot of incentives.
Okay, so you mean like Lido, Stater, Unsheath.
Let's use Frax as an example. So Frax is already paying a lot of incentives.
A lot of FXS to all these solidly forks.
So what if Frax instead took some of that and offered that as an upfront payment to people who were willing to lock up their Frax ETH for a month?
Got it. And you're saying because they're already sort of doing this on the Frax ecosystem, it's reasonable that they might do this here as well. Now, my counter to that would be, well, wouldn't that put immediate sell pressure on the FXS asset instead of like vested sell pressure, the people who are like getting their yield slowly over time?
I would say, okay, I've actually done financial modeling of this because this is something we've had in our back of our heads for a while. We didn't know where to put it, but the answer is yes, it puts more immediate pressure on it. But if you actually look at the overall impact, it's negligible. In fact, it's better to pay up front than it is to pay over time.
Is that because immediate sell pressure is better than consistent sell pressure? Or
Well,
is there like some other reason for that?
Money over time is typically going to be a little bit more than immediate, since immediate is the discounted rate to the present day.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
Yep. Value versus value.
Okay, so I think I understand now. You have this LP, like let's say it's SFRX ETH, which is just a mouthful to say. Stakes Frax ETH is probably easier. ETH. And Frax says, okay, we want a lot of liquidity on this pair. So what we'll do is we'll say if you lock up that LP for a month we will give you a fixed set of FXS. And you're saying that that fixed rate is going to be something around like the market rate of
The market rate of
LSD, right? Which is
normally
like,
providing liquidity.
5% or whatever it is.
And then the LPs would be taken and staked in something like Kronos, where Frax can actually recoup some of their costs from that variable rate.
Okay, so that would be rehypothecation in that case. So like they're literally using the asset that's locked, kind of, to go and get value on it. Or maybe, okay, so you're saying people bring their LP tokens, they lock them up, Frax then utilizes those LP tokens on, just to say elsewhere within DeFi, to get a yield on that. So they paid a fixed upfront cost in their asset, but they're getting a yield on the asset that you deposited while also getting liquidity for the asset that they like, which is their own tokens. And they may even potentially be able to get a higher yield than they paid, and then repurchase their FXS or whatever they want to do with that yield.
Exactly.
Cool. This is an interesting system, man. You're a tokenomics guy, right?
I like tokenomics. I like just thinking about weird ways that you can use money. The great thing is this is just Resonate. This is garden variety Resonate, no modifications.
Yeah.
Just a different way of looking at it.
So I guess a question I want to ask you has nothing to do with this is Vitalik once said, if you use the phrase tokenomics, then you're not like a real professional, or you don't deserve to be in DeFi, whatever. He bashed the term tokenomics. And I just want your opinion on that.
I think the term is associated with shitcoinery because people use it as a huge buzzword in the past few years. But when you're designing a token, is very important to get the economics right. And in fact, shitcoins are fantastic examples of some master cases in token economic design or tokenomic. You have to decide how much you want to distribute to a liquidity pool. You have to decide how much the team should get. You have to decide how much early participants should get. Curve is probably the best masterpiece I can think of in terms of tokenomics, and had solidly not collapsed because of Andre's assumption of friendly behavior amongst all participants. It would probably hold the title.
Yeah, I could see that. Cool. I'll take that as a good answer. Now, with this new product, you're saying that it's something that people could do today. So I think with what Resonate has, you're saying if Frax wanted to, they could host one of these. What do you call these? These like gauges, they're pools, right?
Yeah. Pools, orders, you can call them whatever that you want. They are basically reusable orders.
Okay, so Frax could host one of these, and they can choose their paid out asset. Like they don't have to pay in USDC. They could pay out in FXS, and that's all something that, like, if they wanted to create a pool, they could do today if they want to. But they, from my understanding, they can't accept LP tokens, or can they?
They can accept LP tokens.
Okay.
What do you mean?
So
this works for LP. Go to mainnet.
Go to main. All right, let's go to mainnet.
Yeah, mainnet should have some. Oh, you got Rabby.
Oh,
Rabby's good.
Rabby's great.
Rabby's good. Okay, go to create pool. Should show select. Yeah, there.
Okay, right. I see what you're saying.
Convex ETH example. LP Y curve, that's just your curve. We work just fine with LP tokens.
Okay, so Frax could then say, we want to incentivize an LP token. Would they have to choose where that LP is hosted? So it would have to be like liquidity from a specific source.
They would just say, they'd have to choose where it's going to go. So it'd have to be like, okay, we want to do this on Kronos, or we want to do this on Velodrome. Because you have to choose which DEX it is.
Right.
And then you have to choose which auto compounder it's going to use, because it is going to use an auto compounder. Likely Beefy. Beefy is everywhere. And we're good friends with Wesso. He's a fantastic dude.
Yeah.
Nothing but love for that man. And you can then just, we set up the adapter. If one doesn't already exist, we deploy it, and it's off to the races. So at most, we might need an Oracle, but
why would a auto compounder be necessary in this scenario?
Our system only does rewards in a single asset. So the
Okay.
asset you deposit is the asset you get yielded.
Mhm.
And that's because we were actually pioneers in the adoption of 4626, the new yield vault standard.
Yep.
We wrote the Yearn v1 and Yearn v2 adapters to make both Beefy, Reaper, and Yearn all backwards compatible with ERC 4626, and we have been encouraging its use in the industry ever since.
Yeah, and it's really blown up. I mean, I think one of the first times I heard about 4626 was from you guys in one of our early calls, and it's just been everywhere ever since. Of course, it could be like whatever that effect is, where once you hear about it, you see it everywhere. But
No, it's been going. Most people have started to use it because when we build on somebody, if they already have 4626, if you go back to Arbitrum, you might be able to see the old Rage Trade vaults. At some point soon, we're going to have GDI. And
I was
the
about to
great
ask
thing,
about that. I thought that might be another product that's pretty compelling for people to utilize. Okay, so
GDI will be out here soon. I can tell you that right now. There's some alpha. It's 4626, so we just plug it in, and off we go. It's done.
okay, no, I mean, this is getting interesting. So I'm on Arbitrum. You're saying look for what now? Like anything good?
Actually, it's right there in front of you. The old Rage trade. Oh no. Oh, okay. Yeah, Rage against the EVM machine. A little bit down.
There it is.
Yeah, the Rage trade is sunsetting that system, but they were one of the first to do a 4626. And for that, we literally just told our system, hey, onboard these guys. And that was it. No contracts needed to be deployed, nothing. Just plug and go. That's why it's such a big deal, because it changes how easy it is for one protocol like us to onboard a yield farming protocol. It makes it instantaneous.
So let's say a protocol knows they're going to get a fixed rate of around, let's say 10%, and they have a 4626 vault, and they're wanting to attract people who are interested in getting like 7% on that, but they want it up front because, you know, the markets just think 7% is good enough, and I'm scared about the yield long term. What would the best course of action for that protocol be utilizing Resonate?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Let's say a protocol has a structured product that gets like 10% on an underlying asset. People are totally fine with 7%, and they're worried that 7% might go, or that 10% might go down over time. So they're more than willing to take upfront yield on it. And the protocol understands this. What would the best course of action from the protocol be utilizing Resonate?
So if they already have a farm on something like Chronos or really any of the big solidly forks, then if they don't already have a Beefy auto compounder, just come talk to us. We would get Beefy to set one up. We would deploy an adapter for it because Beefy always is happy to set these up for us since it makes them money too. And the protocol could then offer via Resonate, they create a pool and they'd say, hey, go up to create pool. Actually, I'll just walk you through it. If you scroll up, it'll be right there. So pretend it's Beefy spell ETH. Let's do that.
Sure.
That makes no sense. And let's say it was on a year term, even though no one in their right mind would ever do a year. I don't know why the icons are broken today. Web app development is weird. 1 year is fine. So just type in 1. And then say 7%. And then minimum amount per order. It's giving you that warning because the APY is
lower than the.
So it's telling you that's a terrible idea. What is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so you can denominate this in spell, or you can denominate it in fiat.
Yeah. Oh no, you can only denominate it in spell. That's just that tells you how much it's worth.
Got it.
I don't actually know where this thing's hosted or if it's up to date. But the long story short is, okay, yeah, that's why it's doing it. You need to tell what you want to pay in. So I will mention that to my web dev. Anyways, you enter the pool name, you click create pool, and they're done. That's it. I would not actually do that. That will cost you money.
Yeah, I'm not going to create that.
But yeah, that's it. Then they go and they deposit to the purchaser or payer side. So if you go to the pools list, be right there.
Okay.
And
Love it. Now I have another question. Let's say you have assets like SGLP, WSD ETH, or SFRX ETH, and these are gaining value intrinsically. So you don't have a reward token. You just have these things increasing in value. Would there also be a way to utilize these sorts of assets on your platform?
Where they don't have a reward token. So things like SGLP.
Yeah, right. Or, well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, I think SGLP is intrinsically interest bearing. I'm not sure if it is, but like wrap staked ETH is a very easy example. It just grows in value relative to ETH.
Yeah, so there are ways to do that. Typically with wrap staked ETH, we just put it into a 4626 that would unwrap it to staked ETH, because staked ETH just is perfect. So the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
The basic way that works is you can just track how much it's increasing in value using the ERC 4626 system.
Okay, very cool. I like this. Now, I have not checked the Discord in like a minute now. Let me see if there are any questions from the people. Question. Okay, we do. Hey, thanks. Crypto question for the SGLP example at the beginning of the AMA. How do you pay out 1.1% per week, which is 57% annualized, if GLP is only generating 27% APR? Shouldn't the weekly fixed rate you pay out be less than 27 divided by 52 or 0.5%?
So the exact same way that FlashStake managed to pay 65% when they started, we're losing money. that is the answer to that question.
Right. So you guys are incentivizing use of the system initially.
Yeah, exactly. That was a way to get people in the door on Region, and it worked pretty well. You know, Region had several hundred users and a decent clip of volume in the first week, and that's been slowly ticking down ever since.
So let's like pivot back to the roadmap, right? We sort of see your products that you have now, get a basic idea of what you guys want to do with larger, more institutional players here. What else is on the to-do for Resonate?
Yeah, so the LSD play is targeted toward retail, and for that, we're going to build a new interface that'll just be very simple. Deposit here, get this return. Make it super, super boring. You know, give people the choice of 2 weeks, 1 month, or maybe 2 months. And follow the classic, keep it simple, stupid. Gauge interest.
Right.
Assuming we see the success on that, we hope to. Perhaps an FNFT marketplace is in the cards. FNFT lending is definitely in the cards. And travel down the road of that LSD. Expand out from the group who we've already agreed to do a trial run with. And I was telling you that, and you were saying some things that you're going to think are pretty funny in the next week or two, I promise you. Because someone already has agreed. And it'll be going fairly soon. So pending that success, expand out to the other providers and just get that churning to actually be making revenue, because we want to be making more revenue. That is our goal as a protocol. It's
a good goal for any business to make revenue.
Yes. Not Ponzonomics, token comes later.
Right.
But in terms of other things that we're developing out, well, the front end needs a rebuild. As you can see, it's a little bit confusing to explain to people. It's not intuitive. It was designed by developers, not UX people, and we are currently in the process of bringing a UI and UX designer onto our team to help out with that rebuild. We are already planning on a Resonate V2 that would allow for leverage, and that we think would be extremely interesting in the context of building more structured products. So I mentioned to you a yield stream that can guarantee a certain rate. Well, okay, you tell me you've got something that can do 14. I can guarantee someone 13 or 12.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Upside, it captures above 14. Well, they start to capture that upside again. So it's no longer a fixed rate. It's a guaranteed downside protection rate.
Mm-hmm.
There are an awful lot of structured products that I've already got the math worked out to build. And it just requires, more tech to be built, which is what my devs are doing right now.
So would the leverage product be something like, let's say you can offer 10% on something, and they would just take a fixed rate of 9% and then rebuy the product and leverage it that way that we were talking about earlier with the Dolomite
No.
integration, or is it a totally different type of leverage?
Notional leverage, more closer to the way IPOR works, but I still don't understand entirely how IPOR works. I think I understand it, but it didn't liquidate me when it should have. So,
But that's just because they like you.
I appreciate that. They're all right dudes. Rates are a bit low right now, but I hope they figure out stake teeth. Anyways, Jesus. So what the idea here is you could have $100, and you could take that $100 and you could take 10x leverage out against it, and you could treat it like $1,000. So, and if I'm paying you 4% up front, well, now instead of paying you $4 on $100, I'm paying you $40 on $1,000 that doesn't really exist. So you only have 100, but you get $40 up front. And what I do now,
what are your risks there?
Your risk is liquidation.
Right, under what parameters? So are you like, what is your delta exposure, or what's your exposure in terms of under what circumstances you want to be liquidated?
Yeah, it's not delta. I think it's skew that would liquidate you, is the interest rate itself. So
okay.
You got paid $40 and you have 100, right? So if the return for the guy who bought the rights to your return is 3%, well,
right,
you owe them $30.
So this is just like a leverage bet on the interest rate going up
exactly.
or down. Okay, got it.
That's it. So you can pay him, the $30 out of your principal. That's how it works. That's how we resolve the leverage question.
I'm actually surprised that Pendle hasn't done this yet. It seems like an obvious next step for them.
Pendle's system would have some trouble with this because of the way that it's structured.
Because it has they use an AMM?
Yeah, well, the AMM is the big kicker there. The ERC20 and the AMM, since each position in a system like this has to be 1-to-1 to 1, it has to be unique. Like, if I take out 10x leverage and you take out 1x leverage, and we both do it for 30 days, well, our positions can't be commingled. They're very different because, if in your case, since you took out 10x leverage, you can actually get liquidated, but I can't. So we can't treat those positions identically the way that Pendle treats positions identically. Pendle has, an AMM, and all the tokens in the AMM have to be ERC20s.
Right, got it.
So that's why Pendle has difficulty slipping into this sort of product. Is just the way their system is designed makes it extremely difficult. Doable, likely, but I haven't thought about ERC20 systems enough to be able to tell you how to.
Okay. All right, cool. So you're talking about this up and coming sort of liquid staking product or liquid staked product. This is going to be targeting, I'm assuming, mostly like ETH and ETH derivatives.
Yep. ETH and ETH derivatives, and as the wars for GLP, MLP, and GDAI heat up, I imagine they would probably be pretty good targets too. The kicker is that, and why you can be assured there'll be secondary market liquidity on this. If I'm Frax and someone has done this with ST ETH LPs,
right?
Well, my direct incentives are to offer that person an early exit at, let's say it's 1 ETH. Well, I'll pay them 0.95 ETH today and assume their risk. Assume the ST ETH time risk, because I got a ton of ETH. But what I don't have is my own competitor's liquidity. And so as Frax, I can offer anyone who wants to get out of ST ETH an early way out. And once I get that FNFT, I just hold on to it for, say, a month, and then it unlocks. And now I can actually, well, first off, I paid 0.95 for something that's worth 1, so I already made money. And second off, I can take their Lido's liquidity and put it into my liquidity this way.
I I
And they can all do this to each other.
So the question here is a big one that is very relevant to the Arbitrum ecosystem, which is who is going to build the first really useful, robust FNFT marketplace?
I think we will.
Really?
I think that's going to be us. And I've been wrestling with this question because FNFTs have been a huge impact in this ecosystem, and everyone's trying to come up with, like, I've been talking with a guy who's doing 6551. He's trying to come up with a standard for them, but I think he's on the wrong track in the nicest way I can. I mean, I think it's very important that we have a standard, but I don't think that's going to be the big money maker, because Velodrome's got their own standard. I've got my own standard. The Byte Masons have their own standard. There's already this proliferation of all these different ideas.
Right.
What's missing isn't a way to standardize the creation of the NFT. What's missing is a way to value them.
Yes.
Because if I'm building a marketplace and, I have, if I'm selling my Frax ETH LP to you, well, that's not worth $100. If ETH's price goes up, it should be like, if ETH goes up 20%, it should now cost $120.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I know what it's worth? How do I value it?
Right. I mean, a person could manually do the math and like sell this very vague type of NFT peer-to-peer on some sort of marketplace, but there is no good UI for this currently, even though there's all the products that would otherwise have demand exist, but they don't have demand because of a lack of marketplace.
Exactly. And I think one of our contributions in the next 3 to 6 months is going to be an EIP that dictates how to value FNFTs. We're already good friends with Frax. We're already pretty good friends with most of the Solidly guys. And as far as I know, those are the biggest players in town. We're friends with the Byte Masons, and they've got, their edge there. So it shouldn't be too hard to get everyone using a single standard to value these. And if we're the ones creating that, well, then it's not very hard for us to become the ones offering a marketplace on that.
Well, that's exciting. I don't want to get my hopes up because you're not the first person to say they'll be the financialized NFT guys, but I really hope that you guys are. It looks like we have maybe one more question from Crypterb coming in. Is there anything, so like in the last minute here, is there anything else that we didn't get to that you wanted to mention? And then finally, we do have a question from Crypterb who says, wouldn't you use a DCF model to value FNFTs?
What does a DCF model stand for?
Great question. I'm sure.
Cash flow? I think that's discounted cash flow. If it is, yeah, okay, I was right. Yes, you would use a discount cash flow. Basically, you're taking, it's like thinking about an option with a theta. FNFTs have, I believe, it's a positive theta, where their value is less, and then it logarithmically approaches their real value as they approach unlock. Thing is, how in God's name are you going to figure out how to fit the Greeks, the equation, the coefficients from the Black-Scholes model to a fairly low liquidity market in an extremely niche collection of financial computer enthusiasts?
Very carefully.
Yeah, the answer to that, Crypterb, is you gotta just let the market tell you what these things should be worth. You gotta use order books. The same way that most NFT marketplaces these days already work, which is why this isn't too hard. I do have a question for you, Stephen. Who else have you heard say they're going to be the financial NFT guys?
Most recently it was Kronos, and they wanted to build it because they wanted to be able to host a marketplace for their financial NFTs. And they said, well, if we're going to host it for ourselves, we might as well host it for other financial NFTs. We will see what happens.
Hey, Matt, tell Kirk to reach out to Kronos. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can work together. I like synergy. So
we very much do as well.
That concludes the AMA. Thank you. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. I'm sure you guys have a Discord. If anyone has any additional questions, feel free to join the Discord to ask them questions, or they're on this Discord pretty frequently as well. So tag them in the chat. And if you don't get a response, tag me. I will, of course, ask on your behalf. This was great. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any final words, go ahead and let them loose. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you all so much for having us. Hope you don't mind if I put the Discord right there, Steven.
Oh, no, please do.
All right, awesome. I dropped the link. Anyone who wants to swing by, we are always around and always happy to answer questions.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for having us.